Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my name is R.W. Jones, the Billionaire. And they call me the Billionaire because not only am I a brilliant billionaire in making, but I've accessed over $5 million in government contracting. And there's this phrase by Bob Woodson that says, what makes you effective also often makes you invisible. And so I've been behind the scenes for the last 20 years, just trying to transform our communities, like literally one person at a time, writing proposals, grants, and contracts, getting access to these funds, and transforming the lives of people. However, now, the Lord divinely has me in this new direction where my job is to now help people like yourself get into these pipelines because I've learned that number one, AI is not created equally, meaning everybody does not have access. And while you might think that AI is everywhere, AI is actually not everywhere. And I'm going to show you in today's video training where AI is not. And if you are an AI strategist, an AI consultant, maybe you're AI curious or you're the AI skeptic, I'm going to show you where there is an opportunity for you to cash in. Why? Because one, many of you will never dominate the internet. Many of you will never be an influencer. You're not going to have 100 million followers. You're not going to be paid to be this branding spokesperson. Many of you don't have the personality to command the attention of the room, but that doesn't mean you're brilliant nonetheless. And it doesn't make your heart bleed to be impactful and help our community. And I want to show and share with those of you who want in on the AI gold rush, but maybe not know how to get in. You have skills, you have expertise. Maybe you've worked in the government and you see that there may be a shift and maybe you want to go out on your own. So this is absolutely for you. Maybe you're new into being an AI consultant or a strategist and you're really not knowing how to dominate and crush what it is that you're offering, like how to sell it, how to find people that will buy your services. If that is you, then you are absolutely in the right place because I am going to unveil a industry, Department of Labor, Workforce Development. We're talking $13 billion of funding. And so these institutions that I'm going to show you, they are not out there, feeding for subscribers like I am, at this point, like, subscribe, share, turn on your notifications. But they're not out there trying to put courses together. They're not out there trying to get you to buy the next AI tools. They have billions in funding already. And the challenge is they don't have you. So just really quickly, I learned about AI maybe 3 years ago. I was on a tour traveling the United States in a pimped out RV. It was me, my son, my husband, and I had one of my colleagues with me. And we were on this mission to help find $18 billion in Section 3 funding. And we went from, want to say from DC all the way down to California. And my son introduced me to AI. And like many of you, I was the skeptic. I was like, that's the devil. What is that? I don't understand. And I just started to do my day to day. But day in and day out, he would just show me new things that AI was doing. Fast forward, we're 3 years in right now, and am blown away by the things that AI can do. Now, interestingly enough, I went all in about a year and a half ago, and I joined Quita LaShawn's AI Cash School. And the things that I was learning, I was like, whoa, this is super freaking dope. I had a current contract with a local workforce board, and they needed some summer providers. And so if you haven't seen the video on my YouTube where it talks about how I made $100,000 in contracts using AI, that's a video where I tell you exactly what I did. However, I was only 2 weeks into the AI skills. Okay. This is somebody that was the skeptic, turned curious, turned joining a community AI care school 2 weeks in, and I put the program together. These kids that were in my class, I got this $100,000. One was $50,000 for 1 week of work. One was 42,000 for 6 weeks of work. And they never were introduced to the AI skills. It was their very first time. However, something great happened in that process, which I'm going to unveil the nitty gritty of that in an upcoming training I have live on the 25th, AI Cash Skills to Contracts, where I'm going to really show you how to position yourself to get contracts within this system. However, for now, we are going to get into the who, what, where, why of workforce. Why workforce development? Who is workforce development? What do they do? Why do they do it? All right. So there is the Department of Labor. As you know, Congress allocates a certain amount of money to various agencies, various federal agencies, and the Department of Labor is one of those agencies. And while the Department of Labor has a 13 to $15 billion budget, a small part of that budget goes towards what they call workforce development. Department of Labor. They are funding jobs, skills, training, etc. So the workforce development entity, where billions of dollars every year is used to upskill the labor force, most AI consultants don't even know that these pipelines exist. If you are out there, I don't know if you've heard of workforce development, and that, sometimes we see the world moving, but we don't know how it moves behind the scenes. And so in this video, I'm hoping to just kind of share with you a little peek behind the scenes into where billions of dollars are moving hands. And the question you want to ask is, how do I get that money into my hands? We're talking about the who, what, where, why, and how. So let's talk about how Congress allocates the money to the Department of Labor. So you have the Department of Labor. They are actually given funding to the various states, right? The Department of Labor has the funding right here. They're giving that funding down to the state agencies. Now, every state by itself has various counties. They have cities, big cities, in fact. And so each state has to provide what they call a unified workforce plan, right? And they submit that to the Department of Labor for funding. And so once the Department of Labor approves it, it kind of breaks off a chunk of the funding and it gives it to the respective states. And then those state entities then break up their big chunk of funds and they bring it down into what they call the local workforce boards. Now, local workforce boards can be in your county and or a big metro city. Let's take North Carolina, for example, and you have 100 counties in North Carolina, but you have some really big metro cities like Charlotte, Durham, and Raleigh. Typically, wherever you have these big metro cities, they're going to have their very own workforce board. You're going to get some homework to go and do some research on your local workforce development board. However, once the state allocates it to the local workforce boards, then those local workforce boards right here, they then contract to service providers. They are the ones that are procuring. They are looking for service providers because they are in the business of buying solutions. Their job is to ensure that the most vulnerable people in your community, whether they're seniors, ex-offenders, TANF recipients, these are hard to employ populations, right? And the goal is to move them from the welfare roles or the dependent roles into the economy where they can become self-sufficient. But in order to do that, you have to have skills. And they do understand that college is not for everybody. Everyone is not going to the next university or community college to get skilled or degree. And so these boards exist to help provide credentials and certifications that will help people be employed. So you see right here where it says service providers, that is you. At least that's what we're hoping. You AI consultants, you AI strategists, my AI curious people, you are the ones in which we are hoping that will get into these pipelines. And we'll share a little bit about some of the challenges that are happening in these pipelines and which would present the opportunity for you. So let's see, you have the participants. These are the clients, the low-income people in your community, which we just discussed was maybe your senior citizens, your hard to employ, hard to serve populations. So now let's get into the what. What is workforce development in a nutshell? Workforce development is not a charity. It is a government purchasing system. And they purchase training, credentials, coaching, job placement, upskilling, and career navigation. And many of you, that is exactly what you're doing if you're an AI consultant or a strategist. So if you have learned all of this AI software, by now you're thinking, I don't want to be the one stuck behind the desk doing the work. Yep. I know you thought that. However, that doesn't mean that you cannot be the one who teaches the one behind the desk. You understand what I'm saying? So you owner operators, I want you to think about, yes, you got the AI skills. You should know it enough to know what needs to be taught, how it needs to be administered, and what are the outcomes that need to be learned in order for your contracts to get funded, which we'll talk about that later. I think I actually did a live on Thursday about how to create a program to get funded. You can check that out as well. But this is a system, nonetheless, that will be purchasing skills. And I'm going to show you where AI is not represented in these pipelines. So one might think AI is everywhere. How come it's not here? That's what you might need to ask. Why isn't it here? That's why I said AI is not created equal. In fact, some people just don't have equal access to AI as we speak right now. There are some populations, particularly those that are eligible to receive these training dollars, right? They're not in courses. But understand, everybody don't have $5,000, $10,000, $2,000, $100 to go buy some course. It's not how most of these people in these pipelines. That's not how they operate. And so these systems, exist for these hard to serve people. Now that you know what workforce development, what they do, they are buying solutions, they are buying training, they are buying credentials, they are buying from service providers like yourself in the marketplace that can help a person move from A to B. And that is what we're doing. I've been in the AI world. I've been out in these little summits. I've seen tens of thousands of people learning all kind of tools. And I see that the ones that have the money are making the most money because they got all of our money through these subscriptions. And so before you go broke getting another subscription, you might want to secure a different type of bag that you build one time. And you could put it on step and repeat, step and repeat. And I'm not talking about one person here, one person. I'm talking about 30, 40, 50, 100 people in your programs at any one given time. So I think that that's important because guess what? These systems can pay upwards of $5,000 per person for your course. And so you just probably spent $5,000 to become an AI consultant. Why not now take those skills and 10x your investment by coming into a workforce board that needs your skill? So now let's just say, okay, where do I find these opportunities? Where do I find my local workforce board? So now I want you to this is going to be part of your homework because you are literally Google, find your state workforce board. And that can start. I like starting at the top because I like to understand the chain of command, right? So I'm always going to say, well, if I lived in Mississippi, if I lived in Florida, if I lived in Texas, I want to find the Texas Unified Workforce Plan. Let me see what the governor submitted to the Secretary of Department of Labor. And what did Texas promise to do with their workforce plan? Because don't forget, all of these counties fuel in all of their data. They send it to the state sends it to the Department of Labor sends those funds down. And so I'm always curious on a state level, what we looking like. And then I like to drill down to my local. So if I live in a county, I'm looking up Wake County, or I'm looking up Westmoreland County, DC, District of Columbia. Now I'm going to drill down to see where my local workforce boards are. And these local boards are the ones that issues the RFPs. They are the ones that provide the funding, notice of opportunities, or notice of funding awards, whether they're NOFAs and NOGAs, and they got all kind of names for these things, but they also the one that awards the contracts, and they are the ones that report the spending. Remember, you are in the business of providing a solution to this workforce board, and this workforce board will pay you handsomely in order to help its people. Got it? All right. Next, you're going to go and find the eligible training providers list. Now, this is important because these are the people that are approved for training in the local jurisdiction, right? The ETPL list. It's not hard to get on the list. However, it's a nice little hike, it's a nice little walk. If you are a small nonprofit or a small business just starting out and you don't have a bunch of revenue already in the bank, because in some states, they want 6 months of operating capital in the bank, non-federal funds. They want to make sure that you're not going to come in and just rip the government off and could get all of this money by training these people with these felonious credentials. And then these people who come to your program, they leave your program and they don't even have an employment opportunity. They're not even better off than when you left them. And so they do raise the stakes pretty high for those that can make it. However, guess what? I was never one of those people. I was a small business owner. I wasn't a big community college or university, and I still was able to access millions. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, You are going to have to tune into my training coming up on AI care skills to contract live free training. You're gonna have to tune in for that to see, what did that actually look like. But I am really basically giving you right now the pragmatic steps that you can take right now to go at least peek behind the veil and start doing some research and start doing some homework. I am no different than many of you. If I could do it, you can do it. And the truth of the matter is these institutions or these local workforce boards, they have millions of dollars to spend and they're going to spend it. The question is, are they going to spend it with you? Drum roll, please. However, they also give out opportunities for innovative approaches. Or right now, while AI is so brand new, they are beta testing AI pilots. You may not see it, but I promise you, if you present something worthy, you never know if it will be approved. Now, we're talking about how. Now, the workforce system, as we said, they have money and they are looking for modern solutions. And one of the things I've learned about government is this: government people are like laborers. They kind of do a job description, and many of them only do the job description. They're not doing anything like extra. You'll be lucky if some of these departments have what we call entrepreneurs. These are entrepreneurs, kind of natured people, but they work inside of an institution. And so you'll be lucky if these institutions even had them, because a laborer is going to wake up in the morning and they're just going to go to work and they're going to do their job description and they're not doing anything else but that. And so to me, in my personal opinion, I believe our government suffers greatly because they hire people that just do the bare minimum. Okay. And so these people behind these workforce boards, I don't care if they're on the board, if they're doing the administration behind the board, they're clocking in and then they are clocking out and they're going home to live a life. And 9 times out of 10, that life has nothing to do with making money over on the side. It has everything to do with just getting by, getting prepared for the next day, which is one challenge of why I believe AI is not prevalent in these pipelines as of yet. But because I am now here introducing the pipelines to tens of thousands of people, it's only a matter of time before AI is in these pipelines. AI skills will be the new infrastructure for not only how government does business, but how it skills the next labor force. I recently did a video series, AI is not everywhere. And I literally called my local workforce board and I asked them, were there any approved service providers that were training on AI? And they said, no. I said, well, how are y'all using AI? They said, we just use AI right now to help the program participants update their resume. And I'm thinking, you're going to update resumes for jobs that are literally disappearing. That told me that there was a huge gap in the system between the people who worked in the system and what they knew AI could do, and the operators on the outside experiencing AI in this gold rush every single day. There was a major gap. And so while these consultants are getting these skills, what you're not getting is access to these pipelines. That's why I said read the Workforce Unified Plan so that you will know what are the outcomes that they're looking for. Find out in that Unified Workforce Plan, have they discussed AI? Because AI has not just come out like this year. What are they saying about AI in your state? Because you can be one of the first people to position yourselves to provide a solution, and they actually purchase the solution. And so it's important for you to know how the system purchases services from service providers. Now, we only have a little minute of time today. I just wanted to kind of give you a high level overview of the who, what, where, why, and how of workforce development so that you guys can either be interested enough to say, let me see, if this is worth my time. Because if I know anything about being a business owner and in this AI stuff that is morphing every day, it is hard to find where you fit. Where does my personality or my skill set have the maximum amount of impact? I believe for many of you, it's going to be workforce development. It is good to start to look at what is trending in your state and even in your local county. Because at the end of the day, when you get into these pipelines and your program participants are going through your course, you're definitely going to need access to the job market where people can come from your classroom into this new occupation. It's kind of like with CDL. While it is expensive to get a CDL, workforce development is probably the number one purchaser of the CDL licenses. So, and you'll never know unless you're in the know. Whoever are those providers in the respective states purchasing or administering CDL licensing, there's a curriculum. And then there is this outcome that they would be able to be employed. And with a CDL license, you absolutely will be employed. So where it's really new in the AI world is there really are no real AI certifications or AI recognized credentials just yet. However, if you come on the 25th, I am going to show you how you stack what they call a stackable credential. How do you stack an AI credential on top of something that they do buy? So $13 billion going out the door and they're purchasing every day. The one thing I've learned about the large institutions is they get the lion's share. So you have universities. When you look at your ETPL list, you're going to find community colleges, universities, you're going to find nursing programs, CDL, cybersecurity. You're going to find these things there. And I promise you, if they came out with an AI program, it would be funded. So the question is, how about for us who have been out here in these AI streets, spending all this money in upskilling ourselves? How about we position something worthy to be funded to this institution so that we can close the digital divide? If you thought the internet came in and created a digital divide, you have not seen a divide. And so again, you guys, I hope this was helpful. I appreciate your time. Be sure to join me on my live training where I go over more in depth and give you the nitty gritty of what to do and how to do it and how to position yourself as a contractor or owner operator within these workforce pipelines so you can start cashing in. I mean, I don't know about you, but I like checks. Who don't like checks? I see you guys later. Thank you guys for spending your time with me, and I'll see you on the next video.